So, does any of this make sense to you? There's a lot of things that don't make sense in Sonic games. For example, where does Sonic store his upgrades? Throughout many of the games in the series, especially the earlier ones, Sonic is able to get upgrades. For example, you have the bounce bracelet, you have the Lightspeed Dash shoes, you have Chip's bracelet. Can we get some F's in the chat for Chip? And he's even had a different variety of shoes throughout the years. Like in Sonic 06, he has a different color pair of shoes for almost every other day. We even have one of his most iconic alternative shoes, the soap shoes. I would love to know what his shoe collection is worth on StockX. So where does he store all of these upgrades and shoes? Because it's been confirmed by Sega that Sonic is in fact homeless. If I had to guess, I would probably say he stores it at maybe one of Tails' workshops or laboratories, as he's shown to have many throughout the series. He may not have a home, but he has a lot of good friends, so he probably always has a place to sleep. Let's move on to the next one. Here's the next thing that doesn't make sense. How can Movie Shadow use Chaos Control? So in Sonic Movie 3, we know that Shadow is able to harness the power of the Chaos Emeralds and go super, and presumably this is the first time he's ever even used them. The reason why we know this is because it's been shown in the movie that Shadow spends his entire life being locked up in a laboratory being researched on. So, if you think about it, at what point in time was he able to discover the Chaos Emeralds and learn how to use Chaos Control? At the Sony State of Play, Sega shocked the world and did a Shadow announcement for a Movie Shadow DLC pack voiced by Keanu Reeves. One of the voice lines by Keanu Reeves' Movie Shadow caught all of the Sonic fans' attention, and those two words were
Control. I have no time for this. I have to complete my mission.
Yo, he just froze me. That was kind of crazy. I guess the thing that doesn't make sense to me is how is he able to use Chaos Control, 1, without a Chaos Emerald, and 2, if he's never even used a Chaos Emerald before? I mean, technically in the DLC, he says, is this how Maria described Earth? When Movie Shadow was already on Earth. I guess you could also argue that, yeah, he was locked in a lab, so yeah, he didn't really get to see the world, but these are the things that make us think. Let's move on to the next one. Here's the next thing that doesn't make sense. How is Knuckles the last of the Echidna tribe? All right, so hear me out. This does sound kind of obvious, but this is something that always kind of confused me. What I always found confusing about Knuckles' backstory is that we know that his tribe was wiped out thousands of years ago. The bloodthirsty Echidna tribe was greedy and lustful for power, which eventually led to the wrath of Chaos. If Knuckles' tribe was wiped out thousands of years ago, then how is Knuckles alive today? His purpose of protecting the Master Emerald probably should have been passed down from like his parents or something like that, but he doesn't even know why he's protecting the Master Emerald. So why is he there? And if his tribe was wiped out thousands of years ago, then how does Knuckles exist in the present day? To me, the lack of other echidnas in explanation for how Knuckles became the guardian of the Master Emerald without any other explanation of his lineage other than Chaos 4,000 years ago just doesn't make sense to me. Anyone knows the answer to this? Please let me know. Here's the next thing that doesn't make sense. Which version of Sonic Colors is canon? Here we are. It's a lovely day in the tropical resort in the Interstellar amusement park. Sometimes you just gotta take in the sights. So the reason why I took a trip to the Interstellar amusement park is to investigate. As you may or may not know, there are two different versions of Sonic Colors. The first version is the one that most of you are familiar with, the one that originally came out in the Wii, where if you look at Sonic right here, is in 3D. But there's also another version of the game that's maybe a little bit more obscure to some, but it's completely different. And that version is none other than Sonic Colors DS, which is essentially Sonic Rush 3. Not only do these games look different, but the stories are also completely different as well. So in the original Wii version of the game, it just follows the adventures of Sonic and Tails. I would know because I'm here. And then during the remaster, they just threw Metal Sonic in there. I would also know because I'm here. But did you know that in the DS version, Cream the Rabbit was there? Blaze the Cat was there? Silver the Hedgehog was also there? How can we forget the time in Sonic Colors when Rouge the Bat showed up? Knuckles, the guardian of the Master Emerald? Yeah, he's here too. Who's guarding the Master Emerald? Team Chaotic showed up. Oh yeah, Omega and Shadow were there too. Let's be honest, deep down inside, I probably think that the Wii version is the true canon version, but I'm also here to confuse you and plant a seed in your head. In the final boss of Sonic Colors DS, there's a supersonic boss fight against a corrupted Mother Wisp. So you're probably looking at me like, okay, who cares? The reason why I'm pointing out this character's existence is because she does not actually appear in the Wii version of the game. Furthermore, in Team Sonic Racing, the Mother Wisp also makes an appearance as well. It's already been confirmed in the official Sonic timeline that Team Sonic Racing is canon. And also in the official Sonic timeline, it does say something about Sonic and his friends saving the Wisp. So there's plausible deniability. Which version do you think is canon? Let's move on to the next one. Here's the next thing that doesn't make sense. Is Dr. Eggman Nega from an alternative dimension, or is he Eggman's descendant? There is technically a canon answer to this question. When we first meet him in Sonic Rush, it's explained to us that he's Dr. Eggman from an alternative universe, which kind kind of makes sense because the Soul Dimension is an alternative universe to Sonic's world, as far as I'm aware. There's one wrench in this plan, and that is his appearance in Sonic Rivals 1 and Sonic Rivals 2. Sonic Rivals 1 and 2 were racing spin-off games that were released for the PlayStation Portable. These games are actually pretty important to current Sonic lore because this is the canon reintroduction to Silver the Hedgehog after the events of Sonic 06 were wiped out from the timeline. So these games are canon. Sonic Rush is canon, Sonic Rivals 1 and 2 are both canon. But if you take a look at the Sonic Wiki, this is what it says about this character. It says that he is a human scientist and a distant descendant of Dr. Eggman approximately 200 years into the future. This character and his origins are definitely confusing to me, and now that Sega's trying to unify the timeline, I'm sure they're looking back on it and they're like, yeah, we probably don't want to include him in any future games. The two things can't be true at once. You can't be from an alternative dimension, but also be a direct descendant from someone from a different dimension. So which one is it? Here's the next thing that doesn't make sense. How did Eggman end up in Sonic's planet in Sonic X? If you've been watching the channel for a little bit, you would know that Sonic X was definitely my favorite TV show for the Sonic series, but there's something that always kind of stood out to me. The coolest thing, in my opinion, that the Sonic X series did was do an adaptation of Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. Here's the thing though, in Sonic Adventure 2, Eggman's family clearly comes from Earth. All the events from Space Colony Arc, they took place on Earth. So in Sonic X, why is Eggman on a random planet full of anthropomorphic animals like Sonic and battling them? There's plenty of theories, but there isn't a concrete answer. Here's another thing in the Sonic series that doesn't make sense. Why is there an inconsistent number of Chaos Emeralds? Most of us know that if you get 7 Chaos Emeralds in Sonic games, you transform into Super Sonic, but that wasn't always the case. Some people forget this, but in Sonic the Fighters, there's actually 8 Chaos Emeralds. I'm not lying. This right here is a picture of 8 Chaos Emeralds from Sonic the Fighters. You might even point out in the Fang the Hunter IDW comic miniseries, they actually address this and debunk the 8th Chaos Emerald theory. I mean, yeah, I get it. That definitely makes sense, and it might be debunked, but explain this. Why the hell in Sonic Spinball are there 16 Chaos Emeralds? Some games like Sonic Blast only feature 5 Chaos Emeralds. Sega was a little confused, I think, in the early years of the franchise. Here's the next thing that doesn't make sense. In Sonic 3 and Knuckles, why is the Master Emerald in Hidden Palace? You guys see where I'm at right now. If you look behind me, we are at the Master Emerald Shrine. Pretty much in every single game after Sonic 3 and Knuckles, the Master Emerald is depicted to be at this shrine on Angel Island. Except in its debut game, the Master Emerald is located in the Hidden Palace zone underground, and nobody seems to care or ask any questions about this. In Sonic and Shadow Generations, Gerald Robotnik kept a journal, and if you look right here, it clearly depicts that the Master Emerald is at a shrine on Angel Island. So maybe it was moved, but in this game, there clearly is a shrine built down there. So who knows? Here's the next thing that doesn't make sense. Where are the special stages in Sonic? The lore from Sonic Frontiers makes it pretty clear that the ancients brought the Chaos Emeralds to Earth, but throughout most of the classic Sonic games, you take these rings, which act as warp portals, and it seemingly brings you to like another dimension or like another universe or another world. Like, where am I right now? Here's the next thing that makes no sense. In Sonic 06, why can Amy turn invisible? If I had $1 for every single game in the Sonic series where Amy Rose can turn invisible, I would have exactly $1. There is no other game in the Sonic franchise where Amy has this ability except for that one game, and I don't even know how she could do it. Perhaps my only theory is that maybe she was training with Espio. At least he's a ninja, so it makes sense that he can go invisible. But why can Amy Rose do it in just one game? And why did it never return? Here's the next thing that doesn't make sense. In Sonic Adventure 2, how does the gun truck keep up with Sonic the Hedgehog? One of the most iconic levels and iconic openings of all time in the Sonic franchise is the City Escape level. There's only one problem with this level. Sonic the Hedgehog is supposed to be the fastest creature in the universe. He moves at the speed of light. So how is this giant gun truck able to keep up with him in City Escape? I think the greatest example of the gun truck's speed is showcased in the Sonic Generations version of City Escape, where it's like he's boosting in this game, clearly going a lot faster, but somehow this truck is only like one step behind him. Is the gun truck nearly as fast as Sonic? Do they have secret technology that makes them almost as fast as him? Who knows?